David Pastrnak's fur trick last night against the Ottawa Senators proves that he should be considered among the NHL's candidates for most valuable player this season. Let's get into it on a brand new episode of Locked On Boston Bruins.
You're Locked On Bruins, your daily podcast on the Boston Bruins. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
What is up, Bruins fans, and welcome back to the Locked On Podcast Network. I'm your host, Ian McLaren, and this is a daily show where we discuss all things Spoke B. Today is Wednesday, March 20th, and I want to thank you so much for making Locked On Bruins part of your daily routine, free and available on your favorite podcast app and on YouTube. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. Please do hit that subscribe button if you have not already, so that you never miss a thing. Today's episode is brought to you by Game Time. Download the Game Time app, create an account, and use code LOCKEDON for $20 off your first purchase. For anybody who's new around here, again, my name is Ian McLaren. I've been covering the NHL for about a decade. Been writing about the Boston Bruins. Well, I'm a lifelong fan, but I've been writing about them for various outlets for 20 years. And I've been hosting this podcast since 2019. And you can find the podcast on social media at Locked NHL Bruins and myself at Ian C. McLaren. Now, the Boston Bruins took care of business last night, beating the Ottawa Senators by a score of 6-2. And if you listened to yesterday's podcast, you would have heard how goaltending has been a major differentiator between the Boston Bruins at the top of the Atlantic and the Ottawa Senators, who are near the bottom. And of course, the Bruins dropped 6 goals on the Sens last night, 3 of which came off the stick of David Pastrnak. It was his second hat-trick of the season, 17th of his career, and it was highlighted by not just the hats that were thrown on the ice. And speaking of hats, I'm so annoyed that I'm still wearing toques here on March 20th. I had already transitioned to caps, but it's snowing, it's cold. We have a winter weather advisory dropping later tonight. So I'm back with the Centennial toque. But on top of the hats, toques that were thrown on the ice, someone threw a full bear suit that David Pastrnak picked out of the group and was wearing after the game, which was incredibly entertaining. He gave the Bruins a 1-0 lead at 8:27 of the first period, tipping in Matt Grzelcyk's shot from the point. He then made it 2-0 less than 3 minutes later, intercepting a centering pass from Tim Stützle before scoring on a breakaway. And then he completed the hat trick with a backhand from the slot to make it 4-2 at 4:43 of the third period. Just an excellent game from David Pastrnak. And I was watching the TSN feed up here in Canada, and Jamie McLennan, the former goaltender, now TSN announcer, talked about how David Pastrnak was coming into this game at 96 points. And, if he hit 100, that was a bad sign for the Ottawa Senators, that things had not gone their way. The 3 goals put him up to 44 for the season to go along with 55 points. He now has, 55 assists. He now has 99 points through 70 games, good for 4th in the NHL in total points. And he is 4th as well in goals scored. In my opinion, he should be a finalist for the Hart Trophy once again. You look at the other guys who are leading the league in scoring, they have much more help than the Bruins are offering David Pastrnak offensively. You look at Nikita Kucherov, who's probably the favorite. He's got 118 points, one more than Nathan MacKinnon with 2 fewer games played. But if you search up the league leaders in scoring, you see that Braden Point ranks 19th in the NHL with 75 points. Victor Hedman is 27th with 67 points. Brandon Hagel, 39th with 63 points. Steven Stamkos ranks 42nd with 62 points. So he has some pretty good help there offensively in Tampa Bay. If you look at the Avalanche, well, you don't have to look very far beyond Nathan MacKinnon to see Colorado's next highest scorer, Mikko Rantanen, 6th in the NHL with 93 points. Cale Makar has 75 points. He ranks 17th in NHL scoring. Finally, you look at the other guy ahead of Pastrnak, and that would be Connor McDavid, who, of course, is having an excellent season once again. 108 points. Leon Draisaitl is a bit lower than what he's had in previous years, but he ranks 9th in the NHL with 87 points. Evan Bouchard, 65 points. He ranks 33rd. Zach Hyman with 46 goals, 65 points. He ranks 35th. Now, when it comes to the Boston Bruins, you have David Pastrnak, 4th overall in points with 99. You have to go all the way down to 43 to find Boston's next highest scorer. And that is Brad Marchand with 27 goals, 34 assists for 61 points. These other guys, Kucherov, McKinnon, McDavid, have several more teammates sandwiched in between what the difference is between Pastrnak and Brad Marchand. So in my mind, without David Pastrnak, the Bruins would be nowhere near the postseason, save only for the goaltending. Offensively, you take him off this team, just a massive hole. And he's come a long way from riding, kind of as a passenger with Marchand and Patrice Bergeron to now he is an elite player who drives scoring, drives things offensively for this Boston Bruins team at an MVP level. You take Kucherov off the Lightning, I mean, they're barely a playoff team as it is with him. Obviously, you take any of these guys off their respective teams, it will be a huge dent. But if your leading scorer has only 61 points, you're not getting very far in today's NHL, and that is the difference. You have a team that's guided by Draisaitl, Hyman, Bouchard, still pretty good. Rantanen, Makar, yeah. Stamkos, Hedman, Point, Hagel. You take Pastrnak away, you have Marchand, Coyle, Zaka, Van Riemsdyk, McAvoy, not on the same level offensively as Cale Makar. All that to say, David Pastrnak's hat trick last night, in my mind, proves that he should be considered among the finalists for the Hart Trophy this season. Let me know what you think. Am I off base? Am I stretching? I don't think so, but hit me up in the comments or on social media. Let me know what you think. We're going to talk about another guy who offensively contributed last night and who's emerging as a force on the fourth line for the Bruins. That's Justin Brazeau, and we'll discuss his impact on last night's game and the Bruins in general here as the podcast continues. eBay Motors has everything you need to level up your ride in 2024. eBay Motors, they offer superchargers, roof racks, exhaust kits, LED headlights, so much more. Whether you're into speed, power, or style, they have you covered with over 122 million parts for your number one ride, and you'll always find exactly what you're looking for. With their guaranteed fit, your part is guaranteed to fit every time or your money back. With eBay Motors, you are burning rubber and not cash. All the parts you need at the prices you want, and it's easy to turn your car into an MVP. Keep your ride alive at ebaymotors.com. Eligible items only. Exclusions apply. The eBay Guaranteed Fit is available only to U.S. customers. Thank you so much once again for making Locked On Bruins part of your daily routine, free and available on your favorite podcast app and on YouTube. Speaking of YouTube, Locked On has launched the first ever national sports 24/7 streaming channel called Locked On Sports Today. It's available on YouTube and the Amazon Fire TV channels app. And tonight, March 20th, 7 p.m. Eastern, it's the best MLB season preview coming exclusively to Locked On Sports Today. Local insights from MLB local experts and from all across the Locked On Podcast Network. Find it tonight, March 20th at 7 p.m. on Locked On Sports Today on YouTube and the free Amazon Fire TV channels app. David Pastrnak with the hat trick to guide the Bruins past the Ottawa Senators last night by a score of 6-2. But it was also Justin Brazeau who scored a pair of goals in this one for the Bruins. One of his best performances in black and gold. He actually scored the game winner, pushed it to 3-1 at 18:51, scoring on the power play off a Kevin Shattenkirk shot. I believe Shattenkirk had 3 assists last night to really solidify his chances of cracking the top 6 on the blue line come playoff time. Brazeau scored his second power play goal of the game to make it 6-2. Near the end of the game, he received a pass from Jake DeBrusk, who remains hot, and curled out front before beating Eunice Korpisalo, that is, glove side. He hadn't scored since his NHL debut back on February 19th against the Dallas Stars. He said it's a lot of fun. He's never been part of a team like these Boston Bruins, consistently winning with expectations. Nice to be part of it and hopefully continue to be part of it down the stretch. And, the Bruins' new JB line on the 4th unit, solidifying itself as a legitimate trio heading down the stretch. You have Jesper Boqvist, Johnny Beecher, and Justin Brazeau, who are forming that 4th line. Talked about how Beecher is in there to win faceoffs, and then he and Boqvist pivot so that Boqvist can be more of a playmaker down the middle. Beecher can use his speed down the wings. Brazeau brings the size. He brings the net front presence. And he, again, at 6'5", 220 pounds, the knock on him has always been that he isn't the strongest skater. And in fact, that's one of the reasons why he went overlooked in the NHL draft, not getting a sniff at the NHL level until now. But nobody can deny his stick. Nobody can deny his touch. And Jim Montgomery said Tuesday that he seems to get every puck below the goal line. He makes subtle, little smart plays. He has a nice touch. And he was glad he got rewarded because he's been playing a lot better than what his stats have shown on paper. Brazeau, again, he's been skating on the 4th line with Boqvist, Beecher. He played with both of those guys down in Providence. And this trio is proving that they could be a pretty effective line down the stretch and into the playoffs. Now, there's a couple things to keep in mind here. James Van Riemsdyk was scratched last night as a healthy scratch. He hasn't been super effective offensively recently. Perhaps they were just giving him a night off, some load management, but you would expect that he'll be in the lineup, perhaps in favor of Jacob Lauko, who played on the 3rd line last night. You also have Patrick Maroon, who was brought in at the trade deadline. He's week to week after undergoing back surgery, and he's probably primed to play similar role to Brazeau, or maybe even in his place. So this will come a bit clearer down the stretch. Everybody wants to be in the lineup. Everybody wants to contribute. Brazeau said for him, every game is a tryout. He's got to keep playing the right way and keep doing the right things to hopefully earn another game. I had said last week my lineup would probably be in the bottom 6, JVR, Geeky, Frederick, and then Boqvist, Beecher, Maroon with Lauko, Brazeau serving as the extras. The reality is you're going to need all hands on deck down the stretch, and also in the playoffs, injuries pop up. There's going to be some load management, certainly down the stretch, guys getting nights off. Everybody needs to be going. Everybody needs to be clicking. Everybody needs to be feeling it. And right now, this fourth line is doing so and playing at a very, I wouldn't say high level, but they're playing at an impressive level that is helping the Bruins win each and every night. We all know that championship teams need depth. You need contributions up and down the lineup. We remember the Merlot line back in 2011, guys who have come in and helped out in lesser roles. Brazeau with the 2 goals last night, 6 shots, 1 hit in just under 11 minutes of ice time. Beecher with the assist, Boqvist with the goal in under 10 minutes of ice time. These guys contributed more offensively in terms of real stats than Marchand, who only had 1 shot on goal last night. Coyle with only 1 shot. Trent Frederick with 1 shot. Lauko, no shots, but he did have 5 hits in 11 minutes of ice time. So the fourth line really stepped up and helped carry the load along with David Pastrnak last night. He had the hat trick, Brazeau with 2, Boqvist with 1, and that's how the Boston Bruins got it done last night. Going 2 for 2 on the power play certainly helped as well, keeping Ottawa to only 1 out of 4. Linus Ullmark has been spectacular since the trade deadline. I believe he's got like a .956 save percentage in 3 starts, a .938 save percentage last night, and he certainly looks like your game 1 starter for the Boston Bruins. Although, again, you could argue that they should be rotating in the playoffs, as we've talked about. Now, with this win, the Bruins remain at the top of the NHL standings. And if you told me that on March 20th, in the year after Patrice Bergeron and David Krejci retired, after a bunch of guys left in the offseason, Taylor Hall and Nick Foligno were traded. If you told me the Bruins would still be in contention for the President's Trophy, I would have, probably crap my pants. But here they are. And coming up, as the podcast continues, we're going to do a curse watch because we all know, do we really want to win the President's Trophy? Is that the spot you want to be in? We'll discuss that here as the podcast continues. Oh boy, I've already got my eyes on some concerts coming up this summer that I would love to attend, and the place that I'm checking out for tickets is Game Time, the fast and easy way to buy tickets for all sports, music, comedy, theater events near me this coming season. With killer last-minute deals, all-in prices, views from your seat, and a best price guarantee, Game Time takes the guesswork out of buying tickets. You can see the view from your seat before you buy, so you know exactly what to expect when you arrive. All-in prices show your total up front, so you know you're getting a great deal before you check it out. And the Game Time guarantee means you'll always get the best price. If you find tickets in the same section in a row for less, Game Time will credit you 110% of the difference. Download Game Time, create an account, and use code LOCKEDON for $20 off your first purchase. Terms do apply, but again, create an account, redeem code LOCKEDON for $20 off. Download Game Time, last minute tickets at the lowest price, guaranteed. Time for Curse Watch here on Locked On Boston Bruins. After last night's win, the Bruins now have 97 points, 3 clear of the Florida Panthers and the New York Rangers and the Vancouver Canucks. 4 points ahead of Winnipeg and Colorado atop the NHL standings. Now, the Bruins have played a league-high 70 games, tied with the Buffalo Sabres, so all these teams have games in hand. But still, Even point percentage-wise, the Bruins have a slight advantage over Florida, 693 compared to 691. But with those games in hand, you would think the Panthers still have a decent chance of catching and overtaking our Boston Bruins. And let's be honest, do we even care about finishing first place after how last year went for the Bruins in the playoffs against those very Florida Panthers? Yes, on one hand, it would be pretty cool to win the President's Trophy back to back and in the Centennial season. And I don't necessarily believe in a President's Trophy curse because only 1 out of 16 teams can win. And just because you finish first in the regular season, the Stanley Cup playoffs are a completely different beast. It's almost like a complete reset once game 82 is over and you start game 1 of the playoffs. Just a completely different animal. The President's Trophy doesn't carry as much weight as the Stanley Cup, but it's still an impressive piece of hardware, and it shows that you were indeed the best team in the regular season over the course of 82 games, which is a pretty good sample size compared to 16 wins is what's required, maybe a maximum of 28 games in the postseason if you go game 7 in all 4 rounds. It's more intense, it's higher pressure. You need to, elevate yourself, and in so doing, you are elevated as a legend if you are able to win. But for me, I'm not too concerned about whether or not the Bruins win the President. I won't be mad if they win the President's Trophy. I'm not going to say, oh, they're cursed, they're not going to win, because chances are, even if they finish second, they're not going to win. It's a very competitive field this year. If the Bruins finish first, they would play the second wildcard team, which is the Detroit Red Wings. Could they steal a series? They're 2-8 over their last 10 games. They won last night. They have firepower. They have pretty good young defense. They have a goalie in Alex Lyon, who we know can steal some games. Sure, they could win. The Bruins finished second. They'd be playing the Toronto Maple Leafs. They beat them pretty handily recently. 2 twin 4-1 results, but that's no guarantee either. And then even if you win round 1, you got to take on the Florida Panthers, likely in the second round. And even if you win that, you got to beat the New York Rangers or the Carolina Hurricanes, likely in the third round. And then even if you win that, you have to beat one of the powers over in the West, whether it be Winnipeg, Colorado, Dallas, Vancouver, Edmonton, Red Hot Nashville, maybe even the defending Vegas Golden Knights. There are no guarantees in the NHL playoffs. And of course, no guarantees that any of those favorites that I mentioned will get out of their respective rounds. It's just a completely different animal. If you believe in the curse, then you don't want the Bruins to finish in first, and you want the Panthers to pass them so that Boston can play Toronto. Careful what you wish for, because nothing is guaranteed, especially in the Stanley Cup playoffs. But right now, Boston, they're first in terms of points, first in point percentage. They're like 8th in goal differential, for whatever that is worth. And just the fact that the Bruins are in this position with less than a month to go in the season, after all the changes that went, and after this, it was supposed to be a transition year, and they don't have Bergeron in there anymore. They don't have Krejci in there anymore. Like, the fact that they are this is even a discussion right now, again, is a testament to David Pastrnak and why he should be a Hart Trophy candidate. But it's also quite remarkable that they're even in this position. I think that's the take that we should have at this point. Anyways, that is it for today's episode of Locked On Boston Bruins, my friends. Thank you so much for tuning in. Thank you for the support. Please do subscribe on your favorite podcast app and on YouTube if you have not already. And become an everyday listener, because we are part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your favorite team every single day. Please do take care of yourselves, take care of each other, and we'll talk to you again here tomorrow on Locked On Boston Bruins, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every single day.